Before we start, I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, and what you'll learn here. So we're College Leap at IVC. We're a local chapter of a national nonprofit that was founded at UC Berkeley. And our main goal is to basically do for you everything that the transfer center might not, right? So beyond just providing deadlines for applications or chatting with admissions officers, we're really to help build you up as a candidate to transfer. So we want to make sure, we're building up your resume, helping you find internship opportunities and volunteering opportunities so that when the time comes to put out those fall applications, you're all good to go and you have like a wide variety of experiences to show for yourself. So our internship experience panel today will really encompass all of the opportunities provided both to community college students and after you transfer. And our panelists will just share their experiences with either some hardships, maybe some challenges, for example, or some of their success stories with finding internships both at community college and at their universities. And we'll be talking about networking. I know we have quite a few really cool stories here from a couple of our panelists to share, so get excited for that. So I'll have Maya, my moderator, drop the link in the chat for everyone to sign in. Just that way you'll be able to get our email updates. We'll be having a newsletter coming out tomorrow, so you'll get all of our content in one place. And before we start, I want to mention one quick disclaimer as well. All of the advice here is awesome, but we want to make sure that before you make any drastic changes to your schedule or to your transfer plan, that you first consult with your advisor before doing that. So make sure if anything here really inspires you and maybe you want to pursue a different major track, you go to your counselor first. And we're just here to share our personal experiences. So with that said, that was a mouthful. I'm going to let all of our panelists introduce themselves. So I'll start with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a sophomore at IVC right now, and I don't know. I'm doing a business administration major, and I got some internships with Murphy and with Deloitte over this summer. Hopefully it'll be in person because I really want it to be in person. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Yeah, they have a really cool office. You're going to be working at the Costa Mesa one, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed then. And yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. All right, I'll have Joe go next.
Hi, I'm Joe. I graduated already. I used to go to IPC from 2013, I think, to 2016. I interned at Apple in 2017 and Facebook 2018. I'm working full-time at Facebook now, and I also have managed an intern. So yeah, that's it.
Wow, awesome. So we have, people from all spectrums here and, someone who's working full time, you can definitely also provide your experience on not just the internship portion, right, at Facebook, but also what it's like transitioning to full-time work. So that's really awesome. And we're excited to hear from you.
Sorry, I forgot to mention I'm computer science. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. Perfect. So we have quite a few CS majors in our club, so I'm sure they'll be really excited to hear from you. All right, I'll have Elisa go next.
So hi everyone, my name is Elisa Marconell and I am a first year here at Irvine Valley College studying accounting, economics, and I'm trying to major in statistics too, but we'll see how that goes. At the moment, I am an intern at LinkedIn and I do marketing. So basically what I do is I'm the intermediary between management and community college students. So essentially my mission is to increase engagement and help community college students get those jobs they deserve.
Awesome. Well, see, as we can see, right, there are students who are hitting the ground running and getting internships in their first years at community college. So that's incredibly impressive. And we're really going to look forward to hearing how you got it, what strategies you have for our students, because I'm sure a lot are looking our first years right now and looking for internships. So thank you. All right, I'll have Kayvon go next.
Hello, everyone. This is Kayvon, and this is my last semester, and at IUC, I started all classes in 2017, and from that, couple of the internship Caltech Aerospace Exonic Modulation, and the last one was Lsp of for the NASA. And for this semester, I have another internship. It's related to the programming. It's for CodePad University. It's in San Francisco, I think. It's online.
Wow,
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah, really excited to hear from you. Definitely. We have quite a few engineering majors on the call as well, so I'm sure they'll find your
Yeah,
insight really
my major
helpful.
also is electrical engineering.
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome. All right, and I'll have David go next. We have a surprise panelist on the call who really wanted to join in.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Brown, class of 2018. I was a former NASA intern, and I used to work on my school's high-performance computing cluster over at Cal Poly Pomona. It's essentially a supercomputer. And currently, right now, I am finishing out my final semester while also juggling a few offers that surprisingly came in. I'm really excited to be here, and I think this is a wonderful panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, and we're really happy, you know, to have as many voices here as possible. So it was really cool that you were able to make it and give another perspective, and also as someone who's already transferred, right? We have pretty strong Cal Poly representation here, right, from SLO and Pomona. So that's awesome. All right, well, with that said, I'm going to jump right into the questions, and let's get started. So this will be addressed more to our community college students, but I'll definitely let those who have transferred pitch in as well. So in community college, what are some of the main resources, maybe some organizations, professors, or programs that you joined that really helped you get your internship? So I'll start with Sarah.
I mean, so the main one, the biggest one that really got me a lot of exposure to a lot of different avenues that I could take was Gap 4+1, which was like, Elisa, you know, it's just like insane how much exposure you get to different recruiting events and all of that kind of stuff, just by being a part of the program. It's mostly geared towards accounting, so you can get a lot of accounting internships, but you can also branch out and use those resources to do basically whatever you want. So yeah, I was taking accounting 1A with Tchaikovsky, Professor Tchaikovsky, over the summer, and he's a great guy. If you have the chance to take a class with him, definitely take it. But he recommended me to join the program, and it's great. I mean, it gives you guaranteed admission to Cal State Fullerton. Not necessarily means that you have to, or it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go there, but it's like nice to have guaranteed admission. And then it's also like a joint program where you basically can go to all of the events that Cal State Fullerton's clubs or societies, the Accounting Society and Beta Alpha Psi have. So all of the recruiters, meet the firms, all of that kind of stuff. You can basically join all of those events. They pay for your the fees to join those clubs, and then you can go to those events. And since Cal State Fullerton has a really, really great business and accounting program, it's great. It's amazing. So yeah.
Awesome. And you were talking a little bit about using Gap 4+1 as a jumping off point, right? So to get internships in other areas. So Elisa, I'll have you talk a little bit more about that.
I am kind of the odd man out. I was the one that branched out. So in my cohort, most of the people, they're interested in accounting, thus they focus a little bit on the Big Four. But I actually got my marketing internship through the Gap 4+1 also. And a very key tool, apart from the exposure that Gap 4+1 was able to give me, was having a LinkedIn account. So basically it was a normal day, it was a normal event. And the Gap 4+1 was hosting a LinkedIn webinar on why LinkedIn is so great and how you can make awesome connections. And, you know, I happened to be there, and then there was a slide saying accepting marketing interns. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So basically I just applied, I replied, and then I contacted the host of the meeting. And I told them, hey, I'm very interested in this. What could I do to perhaps optimize my chances? So we had a brief conversation, a brief exchange. And at the end of the day, I was unfortunately rejected the offer. But following, my passion, I sent him a very last email entailing basically, what can I do to, next time do better? I want to learn from this experience. And I guess that message really got to him because he sent he sent the application back to HR and they accepted me the day after. So the moral of the story is that networking goes a very long way, regardless of whether you have advantages like the Gap4+1 program, or if you have not really realized any resources at community college. I would say if you are an accounting major or anyone that's focused on finance, perhaps a little bit cybersecurity and cyber risk, I mean, I would 100% recommend you to use the Gap4+1 program, but if you're an engineer, a CS major, linguistics, anything like that, unfortunately, I don't have very useful information, but again, creating a LinkedIn profile and just sharing your information out there really goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that community college students really need to get a head start on. We're actually planning to do one in our Discord through just sharing our screen on our Discord server, because I think a lot of community college students wait until they get into university. And at that point, right, recruiting starts right away. So it can be hard to adjust to that. But I wanted to hear from Kayvon as well about
Yes,
how you received your internship and what the process was like for you.
actually, when I say my journey started from the certificate program, which um, it was my first class in the summer of the 2017 with Professor Ray Chandes. And after of the 1 years, he sent some programming offers. One of them was the Base 11 nonprofit academic, which through that one, and we could apply for the some different programs. One of them was Caltech Aerospace, one of them was UCI Research, I think, and Washington and some other locations, which I applied for UCI and Caltech Aerospace. And after that, I accepted to the JPL Caltech Aerospace. Through that one, I became some familiar with the people over there, and I got some information about the another programs like Lockheed Martin and this program, which is the last one, Lsp Academic. And through that one, I was busy in 2018 and 19. And the last semester in the summer, I decided to apply for the Lsp Academic Program, which I, with my resume and some small essay, which I asked us to write it down, and I could accept it to this program, and it was about a 4 month 4 month online program, and was the concept missions. This program was the concept missions. It's a real project based concept, and we had some mentor from the another university which helped us for the writing down the PDR. And it was another program which I this semester I couldn't apply because this semester is my last semester and I was so busy. It was the research program for Lsp Academic, which I decided to apply for the next fall in 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. So
Thank you.
you really have taken advantage of everything IVC had to offer. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yes.
yeah, wow. So clearly the engineering professors know what's up. If you want to maybe drop the name of the professor who referred you to all those opportunities.
Yes. Actually, yes, I can say type the name in the chat.
Perfect. Just for anyone interested. And it's awesome how you went through Base 11, right? And got more integrated with the university community. And then through that, it opened more doors for you. So I think that's a really good strategy for community college students, is to see what's available at universities and try to integrate into those programs.
Right now, when say a special thanks with this professor, which is was an amazing professor, old-fashioned professor, which is just accepted every work through the lab only by the hands-on, and too much work and too much information, and actually had too much uh, opportunity from the other companies like Boeing or other stuff. Yeah, and added too much relation, and some people knows them.
Mhm.
And another one which I mentioned at the first, it was the axonic modulation, which
Mhm.
I was last year before the COVID started, and it was a software verification interns. It was 4 months for the approving the FDA uh, processing, which I was a we, we were a team about 8 pupils and working on a new software on a device. And yes, actually, I got 3 internship through this professor.
Wow. So, and which classes do they teach?
It was let me type it here. Like
Mhm. Yeah, I think people are getting their professor recommendations right now, and they're going to be registering for classes soon. So this will come just
yeah,
in time. Perfect. All
thank you.
right. Well, now that I've heard from some community college students, I want to hear from the students who have transferred already about some of the resources that they took advantage of once they transferred, and also if they, I guess, noticed a significant shift in the amount of recruitment resources that was available once they transferred. So what was the process like for you, Joe?
Yeah, so I think once you transfer, well, depending on what school you go to, and if that school is like ideal for your major. So in my case, I transferred to Cal Poly, and it was for computer science. It was pretty, I would say, well known. Probably not as well known as Berkeley, but it's well known enough that you can feel once you transfer. So I would recommend like one of the resources I took advantage of was go to all the recruitment events, go to all the career fairs. Uh, I'm sure business majors have this too, and other majors have this too. But for me, for computer science, for example, companies like Amazon or Microsoft, aside from the career fairs, they will have separate events in the school itself. So let's say they host a random talk, or they host a coding competition, and then at the end of that, they'll let you apply to the company. Go to all of that. It's also a chance for networking, and yeah. It's different. Like you aren't necessarily like suddenly just smarter or something, but you can see how once you get to like the for university, your value kind of becomes higher. So I will take advantage of that, and yeah, apply to as many places as possible. So and also take advantage of your connections to friends and also professors. So I've had friends who got internships through Apple, through Facebook, from professors, like because their professors referred them, um, or because they would go to events. There's an event called Grace Hopper. I don't know if anyone here knows about it, but basically a bunch of computer science students all over the US go to like a place somewhere in the US, and they all meet up, and then a lot of companies also go there too, and then there's like conferences there, and interviews are also held there. So any recruiting event you can find, I would go to. It will highly raise your chances of getting an internship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point you also brought up, right? It's almost like your stock goes up as soon as you transfer. So like
Yeah.
don't sleep on that, right? And take advantage as soon as you get in there, because the recruiters are coming to you, so you need to take advantage of all those opportunities. Definitely. And it's also really interesting that you mentioned those random talks, right? Or conferences that they do. Like don't just discount that, right? Because that could be another networking opportunity right there directly with someone at the company. So
Yeah.
David, I'll pass off the question off to you. We have another Cal Poly Pomona representative now. So how is the experience a little bit different for you?
Oh, like others have said, your stock goes up instantly when you transfer. The big questions that for me is like the one thing I would say is ultimately going to go to all of these talks, but also take part in campus events. See if you can work for your school's department, whether that's accounting or IT, because the environment will teach you a lot of skills that are for the real world. And it's also a more forgiving environment. And through my IT position as well, I was able to network with not just a bunch of other professionals. I was even able to get certs covered. I was even able to network with other recruiters and even like other campus, like either other like directly faculty members that worked at places like JPL or Amazon directly through my position. So also take advantage of like where you're at, because there's a lot of clubs that have a lot of pull, not just with the current members, but also alumni. And all it just takes is one yes to like boost your career from there.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that's something we're trying to make more cohesive, I guess, at IVC is our alumni network, right? So we're hosting events like this because obviously we have a lot of alumni that could give a lot back to the community. But, you know, that goes the same for with universities, right? Because if you have that alumni connection or someone who could refer you, and if you're seeing them at all these events, right, and you're constantly communicating, that could launch you to a completely different company and a completely new career, right? So use that as a jumping off point for sure. I see there's a lot of activity going on in the chat, but I think Joe is responding. So do you want to just elaborate more on the hackathons and if you feel like those events are just as important as the career fairs?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the question is, for CS majors, are boot camps and hackathons just as crucial as career fairs? For CS, yes. I would recommend going to boot camps and hackathons. In my experience, around 50% of the hackathons I go to, there are companies that recruit there. However, you'll likely get a job more from like hunting in a career fair because that's specifically for getting a job. But the nice thing about a boot camp / hackathon is that you're also building up your resume, and oftentimes like you need to build a good resume. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. And so now that we've covered a little bit of both the community college stage and the university stage, I want to jump into the nitty gritty of some of your tips for success with landing an internship, and then we'll talk about the internship in itself. So my first question, and I'll pass this one off to our community college students first, is what are some of the skills that you believe are absolutely necessary in succeeding at your current internship and that you feel like you would tell other students to really emphasize in their education? So I'll start off with Elisa.
Just want to make sure that I'm unmuted. Can you guys hear me? Yes.
Yeah, you're all good.
Yep.
Awesome. So I actually have a couple of tips. One of them would be to be very persistent at networking. Again, grades are amazing. And if you focus all your time to get that 4.0 GPA, that's amazing. Go you. But for me, I would emphasize networking, not to the same level, not to the same regard, but around the same time. I know many people that are at 4 years at the moment that are stuck in the rooms, doing and studying. I would advise to take time out of your busy schedule and choose to go to those networking events and actually network with professionals that will be able to perhaps give you a job later in the future. Another, this is more of my personal experience. Again, this may not apply to everyone, but something that I've definitely seen in these conferences is that professionalism is a wonderful gateway to get your internship and to sound more, applicable for the position, but you also have to be memorable. If you're a little bit robotic on the robotic end, kind of saying the same statement over and over again, for example, the elevator pitch, that may not work very well in your favor because you're just going to be grouped into, the same, sorry, but basically, try to add a little bit of personal touch in your elevator pitch and try to be a bit more on the friendlier end, because again, networking goes a long way, and personal connections, establishing personal connections with your recruiters could really help you in the long run. Another great tip is to organize and join organizations very early on. The earlier you recruit, the better. I would say to join as many clubs, try to get as many officer positions, and try to get to know as many people as possible. So later at the end of the day, you have a wide variety of network, and you're able to kind of ask for perhaps maybe a referral, perhaps maybe a coffee chat, or maybe advice, or maybe a mentor. So yeah, that would be my 3 tips for community college students.
Awesome. And I'll just tack on something that I've had in my own personal experience. I think also going to office hours for professors is a really good way, because it's also networking in a way, because a lot of the professors at community college are industry professionals, so they are very well connected on their own, and it might be easier to get into their office hours than university office hours when those professors have hundreds of students, right? So that was just another quick tip that I had. But I'll jump onto Kayvon. Do you want to talk a little bit about what are some of the skills in your internship that you feel like you really need to develop to succeed?
Of course, which I mentioned at the first, the skill is the key and so important. And for my major, actually, because it's very specific and had too much stuff to have worked, I recommended to those students have electrical majors participate and register to the some program like electronic or electrical programs, because working with the hands-on, it's make your skill become so improve, and your ability and your knowledge become too much strong, and your self-confidence, it's so important when you working on a hands-on, and your self-confidence become strong, and your resume, it's depend on your what you did on your these programs. And absolutely, when you going to the interview, or when you're talking, or when you write it down your resume or your essay, and you mention to these items and to these keys, absolutely those professor or who want read your essay or read your resume can figure out who are you and how much you are strong, how much you are have experience, and absolutely you can become highlighted between the other student, and your selected becomes so easy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for engineering majors, it's
Yeah.
so crucial to get hands-on experience as early as possible, right? And so,
Yeah,
and community college does provide quite a few of those opportunities through the programs you mentioned. And that in turn helps build up your self-confidence, right? To kind of stand out from everybody else in a little bit of a way, right? Because if you're coming in there as a super confident community college student who has hands-on experience, that is going to put you, apart from the competition.
maybe someone knows or someone maybe don't know. At the first, we had a small lab in the I don't know, forgot the building in the middle of the college. It right now is a physics laboratory, or laboratory or lab or class. Both of them was there, and after that, because interesting of the and not too much pupils, made the IBC made the big um, building in Tustin. It's Advanced Technology Park. It's super beautiful and too much new brand stuff, and a lot of tools new, and everything is ready for the people who are interesting. It's for basic engineering, mechanic, robotic, and all of them is available there. And I don't know right now, due to the COVID, it's can work or no, but yeah.
Definitely. ATEP, I think I've heard
Yeah.
a couple engineering students mention it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a really new facility and has a lot of opportunities to get
Yes.
hands-on work. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Sarah, I'll ask the same question for you. So in your day-to-day work at your tax firm, what are some of the skills that you're putting to use every single day?
Right. And I mean, the skills that I put to use in the tax firm right now are what I used in my interviews as well. Like being personable, like what Elisa said about like professionalism gets you like so far. Being animated and like talking like an actual person and having a genuine conversation with the recruiter is so much better. Like not only for the recruiter, but also for you. You have more fun talking to them. They get to see your personality. Like I'm not saying talk to them like you would your best friend, but also talk to but like talk to them like they're not some old like tax guy, you know? You have to make sure that you're being genuine so that they remember you, because that's at the end of the day that's what you want, because even if you don't get the offer, you'll still make an impact in their mind, and if they see you again they'll be like, oh yeah, that's the girl who was like talking about D&D or something, I don't know. so yeah, it's, and at the firm that I'm working with right now, they are kind of crazy in that they go super extreme. Like it's very informal. They have like their firm values emphasize family culture, so it's very informal. So it's not, I'm not saying that this is everyone, it's definitely not, but like the place that I'm working at really emphasized that. So also do your research. Like some places want you to be more professional, some places really want you to be as like informal as possible without crossing the boundary from like informal to like not professional at all. But yeah, just make sure that you're doing your research, making sure that you're really as open as possible about your experiences, about yourself, but make sure that it's an enjoyable experience for you and the recruiter or anyone who you're talking to.
Yeah. Definitely. I think the word that's coming up a lot right now is confidence, and having a lot of this more of outgoing nature, right? Just to, because it sticks out in the recruiter's mind for sure, especially at those earlier stages for internships where they're not looking for you to be like a master bookkeeper, for example, right? So that's one way you can really stand out. So I wanted
to say something else, sorry,
ahead.
really fast. You also, like me, I'm an introvert. So like it's really difficult for me to even push myself to like speak to people, but like you gotta practice. You just gotta like try to talk to as many people as possible. You're going to make mistakes, you're gonna have really bad conversations, but at like as you practice it'll get easier. You'll be able to talk to more people and it'll just become more of an enjoyable experience. So even if it's really stressful, it'll get better. Yeah, just wanted to include that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that even goes for these career events. One tip that I heard is go first to the firms where you're kind of like breezing through and maybe don't care about as much about joining, just because you can build up your confidence and kind of practice what you're going to go over. So then by the end, you can go to the firms you actually really want to work at. And then by that point, you have your personal statement, everything pretty much nailed. So that's what I did. And it definitely helped, because if I did Deloitte, you know, on the first go, I don't think it would have went that smoothly. But Joe and David, since your industries are obviously a lot more technical skill based, what would you say are kind of the tips you have and some of the skills that you think college students need to work on right now?
I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah.
So I actually I'll get to others to some others later, but I want to echo what Sarah said. So be a personable person. I think it gets overlooked a lot, especially for like I guess you said technical majors. It's really important that in the end, for you to know that in the end, everyone else you're working with are humans. So you yourself need to be someone who's pleasant to be who's just someone people want to work with. I've been on both sides. I've been the intern and also the manager, And you don't necessarily have to be the absolute best in doing your job, but if you're someone that people want to work with, people's opinion of you will go up so much higher, both in interviews and also when you are actually doing the internship yourself. So I would highly recommend to just do whatever. It doesn't mean you have to like, treat them out to dinner or something like that, but just be someone who's pleasant to work with. That depends on the context, depends on the major. You'll have to try to figure it out yourself. But yeah, that's an important tip, I would say. Another one that's pretty obvious is you have to be good at your job, ideally. So for me, engineering skills was important, knowing how to code, knowing how to program. So I would advise that to develop that. School will never teach you everything you need to know to do your job. So if you can, try to find a side project you like doing, ideally one that you can stretch out over a long time, and be ambitious about it, because then you learn more than what you can in school. Another one is trying to figure out how to learn quickly. So in your internship, chances are you're going to have to learn things quickly. I would say it's an art, and you'll have to figure it out as you go along. But sometimes you have to keep asking yourself, like, is what I'm doing the most efficient or the best use of my time? And I think aside from just like your internship, just even in school, you want to keep learning. So make sure you keep reevaluating yourself and trying to improve yourself on how you can learn things faster and better. Because then it's useful in your internship, when chances are you'll not have learned the things you need for your internship that you have in college. So yeah, you need to learn quickly. Yes.
Yeah.
Those are my tips.
Definitely. And especially the personal project. I think that's absolutely crucial, especially for CS majors to pick up, right? So just getting away with doing schoolwork is one thing, but you need to make sure there's something you're working on, because when those questions come up, right, they're going to be looking for those technical skills that you've applied, and you don't get to apply them as much as in your classes, right, as with a project you're doing all on your own, right? And it's also showing ambition, right? So that's another way just to stand out. Awesome.
Yeah. And I guess I want to point out that if you do personal projects, it will typically show. People can usually tell when they talk with you, oh, this person has done stuff outside their school. So it'll be good for when interviewing and when you're actually doing an internship. So yeah.
Definitely. It's like going that extra mile, right, to actually learn about the field instead of just sticking to your classes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, do you have anything to add?
Oh, definitely. One of the things, and one of the big things as well, in addition to everything else, is being able to handle yourself under pressure. So especially in a technical field and for almost any kind of job, things don't always go so smoothly. It's being able to quickly adapt to any situation that changes and being able to make the best possible decision and being able to stick by it. The other thing that I would like to add on with the personal projects, personal projects are great, but in addition to what I would also add to that is use things that are relevant in the field for whatever technology. So for example, go through a lot of job posting and see what is the common language or technology that they're using, and then try to build a project with that. You'll not only be able to have a portfolio with stuff that you built from there with the tech, but you'll be able to put that on your resume, and it will be able to get you through internship, to get you an internship, and even be able to get you a job. The other thing that I would add as well is there are some fields that will give you the opportunity to develop those technical skills. Like, as I said earlier, like if you can go into like for all the CS majors, definitely see if you can work in campus IT, because you'll get exposed to a lot of those technical skills. You'll be able to build them in a forgiving environment. And that was how I was able to really be able to use that as a jump point to a lot of other places.
Got it.
The other thing I would say too, in addition to adding that you're a personable person, be personable, but also use it as a way to showcase like your skills and your talent. So one thing is, as long as you're able to project confidence, you may not be able to know the finer details, but if you're passionate about what you're talking about, that usually does the job in convincing like the recruiter or the manager that you are at least technologically capable, or that you at least know what you're talking about, is through the use of confidence.
Definitely. And especially getting through those first rounds of interviews, right? That's what they're looking for, right? It's self-confidence and passion. So that'll launch you off, right, to those further rounds of interviews. And at least at that point, if you have a personal project and you're doing, let's say, campus IT, or you have already like a job in a more forgiving environment where you were able to test out all these skills, you're coming in both technically ready and also you're very personable, right? Because you have that confidence. So it's a good mix of both. Awesome. So now that we talked a little bit more about the skills and the qualities that you need to land that internship, I wanted to hear more about the networking end, right? Because applications go so far, but networking really does the heavy lifting a lot of the time for getting that job. So I'll have Elisa go first, just to talk about, your unique story of getting your internship and how has networking helped you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I've actually kind of briefly touched upon this story. I went to a Got4+1 event on LinkedIn. I connected with the presenter and I persevered, established a conversation, got a little, it wasn't fully professional. It wasn't automatic. We established a connection. We found things that we had in common, and I was a bit more memorable on that end. So that is definitely a tip I would give. But following that, I got rejected from the offer. And I sent him a message stating basically my interests and how I really, really want to apply next year, and basically what things I could do to perhaps push my application next year. And I suppose that really lightened something in him, and he sent my application to the HR. So, and after that, I got accepted. My lesson here, the moral of the story, is to persist. Even if you're at the brink of giving up, keep going. I got that rejection for a day and I was crying. I was like, oh no, I'm done. And then I had the idea to maybe do this and maybe keep persevering and keep having the connections. Because maybe even if you don't have the luck that I did, at the end of the day, you show the recruiter that you're persistent, that you're passionate, that it's not just another company that you're slightly interested about. You show them that you respect them, essentially, and that really goes a long way. Another thing that I'm very fond upon is every time there's a recruiting event, every time there's really a panel event. For example, I was at a Haas event for Berkeley because I'm really trying to transfer there. And what I did is I looked at everyone in the panel, I added them on LinkedIn. I sent them a message saying, hey, my name is Elisa, and I'm very interested in your school, very interesting in your story, and I would love to maybe connect and discuss further, perhaps. And I mean, it's working. People are getting back. And another thing, something that actually greatly helped was Deloitte events. I went to a Deloitte event. I met with the recruiters. And at the end of the day, I ended up having a coffee chat with one of them. Just why? Because I was persistent, because I cared about the company, because I showed respect. I didn't see of them as another company. I didn't, company A, company B, company C. No, I saw it as Deloitte, EY, PwC, right? You have to respect the company. You have to respect the recruiter. And at the end of the day, it's really going to go a long way. As a freshman, I am very lucky to have what I have, and I owe it all to networking, essentially, and basically respecting the companies and the people that were there.
Yeah, I think some of the advice you're giving, I feel like some of the four-year students that I know may need, right, with getting a head start on networking. So it's amazing that you were able to do it so early and, kind of catch on like going to those office hours for those firms and getting in touch with both professionals and students. So it works, not just on the professional level, but also on the level of what school you want to go to, right? It being Haas. So thank you for that. Kayvon, do you have any stories to share about some networking successes you've had?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned in the first, uh, after I accepted the JPL, I became familiar with some person there, and he was, I think, last year accepted to the Berkeley University, and he had some experience in another company like Lockheed Martin, I think, and NASA program, which is shared his information through the email with the students, and the reason that I informed with this program, Lsp Academic, was I can say the networking uh, steps. And another issue that not too much specific. That's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So yeah, again, networking with students goes a long way. And, it goes for all industries, not just the ones that are like, let's say business and more outgoing and social, but it goes for technical industries as well. So on that note, I also wanted to ask David to share your crazy networking story that I've been excited to hear. So yeah, definitely go ahead and let us know what happened.
There's actually a couple. There's one that's anecdotal from somewhere that I read on Reddit, and then there's one from me personally. The one for me personally that I really, that definitely got me really far was for the first two startups I worked at, I happened to just answer an ad that was just posted onto like one of the boards at IVC. From there, I was able to do a lot of stuff. I've actually also one other thing with being able to get into startups is that they have low barriers of entry. So that through networking there, I was able to get into another startup, and through those startups, I was able to like get myself into a job and the internships that I was able to get. The other thing as well is that since you are all students, at least in the pre-COVID days, you can go to other campuses and crush their career fairs. I actually had a mentor at UCI who used to give me the dates and times of when the career fairs were and told me, hey, be here on this day and I'll introduce you to everybody. So networking as well, it builds upon itself and it also just gets you into other circles as well. And actually through networking, I was with my UCI mentor. While I ultimately chose another school, my friendship with him was able to give me access to the campus IT job that also just helped me get everything else that I was able to accomplish. The other more anecdotal story, and this one is like one of my favorites, was there was a student from the University of Indiana who happened to get an internship over in Northern California. What this student did, this is like exactly why I recommend always just like going to whatever career fair that's near where you live. This person ended up working in Northern California and he wanted to transfer to a more prestigious firm. So this guy crashed Stanford's MBA fair. Wow. And the campus culture, there were plenty of people that were just going in their like, t-shirt and shorts. Mm-hmm. This guy bought a suit and showed up to the career fair. That alone differentiated him from the people there. And through that basic gesture of just professionalism, they didn't even care that he wasn't from the university. He got hired to work at a very prestigious firm. So people respect tenacity more than anything. They respect drive.
Yeah, that's crazy. That reminds me of a speaker who she actually ended up doing a speaking engagement at UCI about how she she was a very brave soul. She was at UCI and she went to a Harvard event as well and kind of did a similar thing. And then she came back with all these offers because these companies were so impressed. She actually flew cross country because she had family there, but you know, she was like, well, let's check out the Harvard event. Why not? And so it's crazy how that works. So yeah, it sounds like the plan is Stanford MBA meetup and buying a suit. There's the checklist. Wow.
It also just comes down to people just love variety. So people find it interesting that you're willing to drive out just to go to an event to meet them. That kind of weighs in people's minds. And I've done that a lot, and I've been able to get a lot of interviews. In fact, I think a couple of offers that I'm currently juggling were strictly just from just driving out to like random career fairs in the pre-COVID days.
Yeah. And I can tell you, it can be done virtually as well. I actually have a couple panelists here who have been very helpful with getting into virtual career fairs. So if you know someone, right, or if you have mentors, like you said, you had the UCI mentor, those connections can really help you out, right? And it's almost like a stepping stone, like he said, right? Even when it comes to your professional journey, you don't have to necessarily start out at the biggest firm. But if you work your way, let's say through startups, for example, right, you can still get to that same location. It just might take you a little longer, right? And you have to do it in a different way. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, since we've talked about the personal qualities as well as the necessity to network, I want to jump into kind of your experiences of the interview process at the firm. So Sarah, you said that there's a very distinctive culture at Murphy. So do you want to talk a little bit about the interview process there as well?
Yeah, I mean, so I interviewed at both Murphy and Deloitte, so they're completely different in the way that they, especially since now it's online, so it's weird because everyone's trying to get used to it. With Murphy, it's like weird. So they put everyone in like this Zoom call, and they call it like it's like speed dating almost, where like they'll hop from room to room, and you'll be like in a room with 3 other like staff who work there. And then you just talk about yourself, you answer their questions, and then you go to the next room where there are other people, and then you ask them. And it's like really, they just want to get to know you. So they don't ask purely like business or tax related questions. They'll just ask you like, oh, so like you have an art shop, why, like what do you put on there, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I'll talk about the stuff that's on my resume, just like hobbies or anything. And then with Deloitte, it was a lot different because well, first of all, my like listening to Elisa talk about her experience with LinkedIn was like almost exactly like what happened to me. Persistence is very important because I went to meet the firms. And applied to like everyone there. I talked to as many people as possible and then just applied. And then I didn't get many responses. But with Deloitte, because I talked to Grace, who's one of the recruiters there, she emailed me back saying, hey, on your resume, you say that you're on the 5-year track, which was a mistake, I think, which was really bad on my part. But I said I was on the 5-year track. And so she's like, you should apply next year. And I was like, I emailed her back like, wait, I'm not doing the 5-year track. I'm doing the 4-year track. So I ended up calling a different recruiter, and we talked on the phone for like half an hour. It was supposed to be like informal. But yeah, so it was like almost a coffee chat, but just like an informal phone call. And then I ended up applying. Yeah, it was Kelly. But yeah, so I ended up applying. They let me go through first. So the interview process for Deloitte is there's 2 rounds of interviews. The first one is pre-recorded. So you have to prepare. They give you like random questions, and then you have a minute to prepare and then a minute to respond. And then it just cuts off and then gives you the next question and like a minute to prepare. So you got like 5 questions or something like that. I don't remember. And then if you pass that, then you go into second round where you talk to two different like people who work there, senior manager like level or above. So I talked to a tax partner for the first half hour, and then I talked to like an audit manager or something for the second half hour. And so those two interviews were really different because the first guy was like super old. So I had to tailor my conversation to fit, like, so that I wasn't too like off-putting for him. And then the second one was like this younger guy. So you have to like make sure that you tailor that. And I didn't get in. They rejected me, but then called me back 2 weeks later because I was like, hey, I did like the same thing that Elisa said, like, hey, what could I have done better? And then they called me back and were like, hey, we actually have the offer for you. So that was really cool. But yeah, so the interview process or like the interview processes are like very different for both of the firms that I applied to. But it's just like keep those core like rules that you have to follow, and you'll do fine. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And the art of following up seems to be coming in here a lot, right? Following up and being persistent. I think that's kind of the motto of the event. But I want to hear from Joe as well about your experience both at Facebook and Apple. What was the process like? What were the rounds like? Any insight that you could give us?
Yeah. So I think if you're a computer science student, chances are you've probably heard of the Cracking the Coding interview book. So it's actually quite similar to what they describe in that book. So for those who don't know, it's basically just multiple rounds of coding interviews. So for example, for Facebook, I had 2 rounds for my internship through the phone, and it was funny because they basically didn't even try to get to know you. They were just like, oh, hey, what's up? Are you ready to start coding? And I'm like, yes. And then the whole 30 minutes was just you coding with with them being able to see what you're coding. And that's it. Like, you don't really get to know who the interviewer is that much. That's for Facebook. My experience with Apple was pretty much similar. It was pretty much similar. They were all, I actually interviewed with Apple multiple times. I got rejected multiple times, so there's persistence there. Got rejected multiple times, and then finally I landed one. So the first round was again a programming interview. Second round was a behavioral interview where if it's behavioral, chances are that's where your personal projects will come in handy and your outside activities, because you'll be able to talk a lot more smoothly there. So yeah, that's my experience.
Wow. 30 minutes of coding with them just looking at you. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yep.
I'm like relieved I'm a business major because that sounds intense.
Yeah. I had one in Salesforce that was an hour of coding. That was even the worst one.
Wow. So it's so interesting how drastically different these interviews can be, right? Hopping back to what Sarah said about, right, them asking about your art shop and these crazy questions, right? And then something completely different here on the other end. So I want to make sure we have enough time for the breakout rooms. So I'll ask this question for every panelist here. What has been the greatest challenge and the greatest highlight of your internship experience so far? So I'll start off with David.
So one of the greatest challenges of my NASA internship definitely was about when my mentor got called out to be interim branch head for the entire department. So I was pretty much left to my own during nearly the entirety of my internship. So the way I was able to address that is, luckily for me, the technology that I was using had a lot of resources, and there were a lot of resources through YouTube and Stack Overflow. Don't ever be afraid to Google something if you don't know it. And don't ever be afraid to ask for help either. I was able to get through this challenge and not only be able to make very good headway on the software that I was able to build, but I also got invited back. And being able to handle yourself under pressure and to be able to put effort in, especially because in software, crazy things happen. not even at a software level. Sometimes there's a lot of business decisions that are made that make things a little more difficult. And if you show that you can handle yourself through those, more likely than not, you'll either get hired on or get another invite.
And what would you say was your greatest highlight?
The greatest highlight of my NASA internship was presenting the work I did in front of headquarters. I was attached to a certain mission for the moon, for the return to the moon.
Oh, okay. Wow. That sounds like a challenge in of itself too. So props to you. That sounds really exciting. Wow.
It was fun. It was
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll definitely have some people popping into the breakout room to ask you more. So be ready for that. But I'll pass it off to Kayvon to talk about the greatest challenge and the greatest highlight through your internship experience.
Yes. For the three internship that I had, for the first one, challenging was the last session, which is was about the making some project to presenting, and I made the small radar with the electronic devices with the Arduino chip, and challenging was for me. I was not so expert with the Java coding, and at that short time, I tried to learn so fast Java code to can make the graphic for this radar, and after that, I could be happy that during the short time I could write the code for the detecting the object when you putting in the front of the ultrasonic sensors, and with the changing the distance, the radar could shows the different colors on a LCD, which is the object is closing or far from the sensors, and I think that was so challenging for me. For the second internship, it was just a verification processing, which I just learned and could be familiar with some FDA approvement procedures, which I could get a great experience from that. And for the last one, Lsp Academic, we had a PDR report, which is I was only the persons in the group in electrical majors, and my job was finding some information and presenting to the leaders on the group to approve to for the final approval in a final. For the current internship that I have right now, I am involved with the CodePad programming. It's Android programming internship. It's so interesting for me because we are working with some great software like a YouTube, Twitters, and with writing the code, we can control some changing and some challenging issues in the coding and learn new items. And yeah, that's it.
Wow, it's a wealth of experience you got there from your internships and picked up a coding language in such a short span of time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Sarah, I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, I mean, the greatest challenge was probably learning tax in like a week because I haven't actually taken like a tax class. So the the training was all like just a blur. I had to learn a ton of new stuff really quickly, so that was really difficult. But I guess it ties into my greatest achievement. What was, I don't know, the highlight.
Yeah.
Which was that I actually got to recently present on a tax topic in front of the whole firm. So like partners, managers, all of them. I presented on like new tax laws that are being integrated with COVID related stuff. And yeah, so that was super cool.
Awesome.
Super scary, but yeah, super cool.
Yeah, going from like a newbie on a topic to now presenting in front of the firm. That's quite the progression you got there. That's amazing. Awesome. All right. I'll have Joe go next.
I would say that it's hard to point out specifically what. So to give context, basically for Facebook, well, also on Apple, they give you a project to work on. Most likely it's something that you didn't really touch on in school, so you have to learn all the context surrounding it. So maybe like what Kayvon was saying, you have to learn a new language entirely. For Facebook specifically, it was harder because it felt like the expectations were higher. They want you to not just code it, but also work with, say, the product designer, work with the project manager, work with other engineers to figure out what's the best way to ship this project. And chances are, whatever classes you're taking in college, you probably haven't worked with that many people cross-functionally before. So you have to kind of get used to how the product development process goes to do on your internship. So and I'm sure depending on what the experience might vary between different interns, but that was my experience, having to learn how to work with people across different functions, and also just having to ramp up to the engineering knowledge I need to get up to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. As you were tying it back, right? Learning quickly on the job is kind of the key here, definitely. And it shows through your project work for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll end off with Elisa and then we'll go ahead and open up the breakout rooms.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for me, definitely the greatest challenge was more of a mental challenge. I didn't really have as much experience as other interns. I believe I was one of the youngest, and I was partners with people from Stanford, USC, and very intimidated people. They were mostly third years, and again, I was a little bit of an old man out, so I kind of had the mentality to, I gotta do great, I gotta go beyond and above and beyond. And I mean, that kind of struggle turned into my greatest experience, which was my and 5 other interns' passion project, which is Diversity Dive. So basically, I paired up with 5 students from Stanford, USC, University of Chapel Hill, and the University of Law in England, and of course me, IBC, to kind of create a nonprofit sort of organization to help everyone kind of learn, and through LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning, to maybe not essentially learn about the things you learn in school, but to learn about kind of how to maybe get an internship, how to maybe network, how to maybe, try your hardest to get a job at the community college level. And I mean, so far it's been going great. We had a webinar with 130 attendees at one point. And I mean, it's great. I'm very proud of it. And I'm just happy that, I'm very lucky to be in this position.